Okay, Kerry, the series finale of Bates Motel is behind us. It's a thing of the past now.
It is.
It was an incredible 5-year journey for you as a writer and a producer and a showrunner. I want to talk about the final shot. That's how I want to start this, with the final shot of the tombstone. Norman and Norma are together, buried together. I thought it was such a great way to end the show. Why did you decide to end it on that note?
Um, Honestly, the impulse in me personally came from Wuthering Heights, which is a book that has, in a lot of ways, influenced the show because it's about a very unnatural love that these two people had that was that couldn't really exist in the real world. But the book ends basically with these doomed lovers buried next to each other, and there's a beautiful paragraph at the end of the book about it's hard to imagine any unpleasant slumber for the inhabitants of these graves, and it always just there's something about the heart of that book that always spoke to me about Bates Motel and about Norma and Norman, and so when we got down to figuring out the last shot, we started to talk about that that it was a way to reunite them without it being corny or glossy or, I mean, they're both dead. Mm-hmm. It's not a happy ending, but it's a darkly romantic ending, I would say. It's a gothic ending.
And I love what's unsaid there too, that you know that was Dylan that did that. No one else would have thought to do that. And I love the thought of that.
I love that you know that.
I'm very curious.
I thought like what was inscribed on Norman's tombstone would also be Dylan, out of respect for the people who Norman had murdered, that he wanted to make a very simple epitaph, and he couldn't make it too flowery or love, love, love.
Right.
It seemed like a respectful ending for Norman, and in my head, that's what Dylan would have chosen to put on that stone.
I'm very curious to know what kinds of internal agony did you guys have, you and Carlton Cuse, about coming up with this final, not just the final shot, but the whole final episode. It can't be easy to end a show. Must have been so much pressure to get it right, not just for you, but for the fans.
I mean, there's definitely pressure. I think we sort of pre-grieved to some extent when Norma died last season, because that was such a turning point in the storytelling, and also once that happened, it's like if you get bad news about someone in the hospital, that was that point where okay, this is going in one direction, and so we really had a year to kind of emotionally absorb and write to the ending, and it was still sad. I mean, it was. We both, everybody, all the writers, like we all cried. It was very emotional to break that story. And you do worry about what people will think. I think you tend to worry about that more, though, at the beginning of when you're breaking the season. There's always a little period of time at the beginning when there's nothing on the board yet, when you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is our final season, And then you slowly put it together piece by piece, and you start to feel that it's so right that by the time you're writing it, you're not really worried anymore. It's just, you're just kind of, living inside of it.
You said before that 5 seasons was the perfect time, and that you really didn't want to go for a 6th season because it would have dragged the story out, unnecessarily. With that in mind, was there any storylines that you really wanted to do that you just didn't have time to do in these 50 episodes?
There was one story we talked about that I always thought was really interesting, which was that while Norma is a hallucination, like after her death, she tries to manipulate Norman by telling him that she's pregnant. And he, rather than, like, maybe at first he's jealous or mad or angry, but then slowly he just starts being like, oh, we're gonna have a baby. Like he starts absorbing the fatherhood aspect of it. And then it's like him and Norma are going to have a baby. And we never got to do that story, but I thought that was kind of a really fun, dark, messed up road to go down.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I think Vera said that Vera really wanted a musical episode, and
oh
Freddie,
my gosh, I would have loved to do a musical episode. Every year at Comic-Con, I pitch some like huge like musical extravaganza because I love musicals, and because everyone in our cast is so freaking talented and multitasker. Yes, that would be like, if anyone will give us money, we will do a musical for you.
yes, let's do it. Let's make sure it happens.
Yeah, bring us money. We will make you a musical.
10 years from now, 20 years from now, when you look back at Bates Motel, what do you think is the first thing that will come to your mind? That's a hard question.
It's a tie between love and pride. It's a tie. I have such great love for the fictional world of the show, for the inhabitants of that world, for how much they tried to get things right and couldn't, but had little moments of living in the sun, and I love them. I mean, that's like the really insane part of being a writer, and it is insanity, is that you believe these people are real, and they live in you. So I do have such love for the fictional characters, and then I have such love for the actual people and the people I got to work with, Carlton and Vera and Freddie and Nestor and Max, Olivia. I mean, it couldn't have been a happier production, which I hear is unusual.
Yeah, I think the image that always will stick out for me is the one with Freddie and Vera sitting at the piano and just smiling and singing to each other. That always stuck with me.
So happy. That makes me really happy. I'm glad that you will think of that. That's like where they live in my heart, definitely. Like they're just hanging out, singing, being silly.
This final season had some really great episodes and some fantastic, memorable moments. But I think one that probably the most viral moment was the shower scene, which was a twist from Psycho, because you had Norman kill Sam Loomis instead of Marianne Crane. Yes. How important was it to have your own take on the Hitchcock story?
It was very important. I mean, it was everything. That was the problem Carlton and I and the writers were presented with was, we know we're going to do a little run through Psycho. How do we do it and make it have meaning for our show? How do we do it without just redoing Psycho? And we spent a great deal of time talking about it and working on it and figuring that out. And I think, personally, to me, there was something always very funny about having this huge Marianne Crane story, but not really playing it as the main thing that was happening. Like that was sort of something that was going on in the background of all the drama in the house. That seemed very fun. And so we structured a story for Norman that was pivotal for his arc and for the whole series, really. It was probably the most pivotal episode for him, where he understands that he made up Mother and then has to confront her. That all got to play out while Marianne and Sam are taking showers, So that seemed like a very fun sort of play on that, that I enjoyed very much. And then also, landing on Sam being the one that gets killed, and that all being part of Norman's, the revelation to Norman of why he created Mother, of the violence in his own childhood, of the sadness he has been repressing and the anger he's been repressing, that he finally gets the knowledge of all that stuff that Mother has been protecting him from, and it fills him with rage. And he kills this guy in the shower who is, in many ways, a symbolic, placeholder for his own father. It was also named Sam, by the way.
What do you think Alfred Hitchcock would think of Bates Motel?
Well, I don't know, because he's a very opinionated person, and he's very funny. I think it's such a wholly different animal than Psycho that he might like it, because it isn't trying to do what he did, or trying to, it's taking parts of it and extracting them and making them into something that's completely new and different. I don't know. I think he would like it. I do.
I guess a twist to that question would be 50 years from now, if somebody remade Bates Motel, what would you think about that? Is that something you would be hesitant to see, or is that something you would love to see?
I would love to see it. I would hope it was good, I think the fear with doing anything on the subject is that it can be really over the top. Some of the sequels to the film were just, kind of goofy. But I think that would be flattering if people were still thinking about it and wanting to dig into it. And I feel like a little bit of the real estate on it at this point is a little piece has our name on it, which is nice. The character of Norma, and the mythology of who she is and how she affected her son, what that relationship was. That feels like something that we developed in the world of White Pine Bay. So much of it really is original. It really is playing with the mythology of Psycho, primarily.
I'd love your take on this. A&E announced last week that Bates Motel is their final scripted series.
Yes.
So what is it like? How do you feel about being the final? You're the end of the era at A&E, I guess, for scripted.
It's a weird sort of honor.
Yeah.
we closed them. We closed them down.
You were so good they could never top you.
Yeah, it makes me sad a little bit. I really loved working with them, and I think it's I think it's kind of unfortunate, but I also understand, they want to do what they feel they're best set up to do. So, I guess it's sort of the drama, the scripted drama is going to disappear into the mist with the house and the motel in Vancouver, and it's all going to just poof and be gone.
Norman killed off all the scripted shows.
Yeah, we were there for a little bit, and now we're gone, and it's all a dream.
Here at Gold Derby, we are huge Emmy nerds. We love talking about the Emmys. Last year, Bates Motel got 2 nominations for cinematography and for musical score. And, I will say this, sometimes it takes them a while to find a show.
Yes.
Your show, Friday Night Lights, is a perfect example of this. It was the Emmys didn't come out until very, very late. And actually, the series finale won Best Writing, and Kyle Chandler won. So I guess this is my long way of asking, what would it mean if the Emmys finally embraced, in a big way, Bates Motel for this final season?
It would mean a lot, honestly. That's the Emmys are the standard by which excellence is publicly acknowledged, and it is meaningful, and our show is excellent, and I everything about it is excellent. It's a fucking good show.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice to be acknowledged. And I know there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful, great shows out there. But I do think our show is special. I do.
I will personally be rooting for Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore. It's a crime they don't have Emmys on their shelves already.
I agree. I agree. I've seen, firsthand the work they're doing, that they've done every day, the scenes that they are asked to execute that are so complicated and are working on so many different levels. They really are. They have given amazing performances, and I would love for them to be recognized.
They both, I mean, she's an Oscar nominee, of course, but I feel like they both have grown so much over these 5 years. Freddie in the finale was absolutely amazing with all of the different emotions he has to grapple with, and it must have just been a pleasure to put this guy on the map, really.
I mean, yes, it was, and the whole last season. I mean, starting with the last episode of the previous season, Freddie had to inhabit and carry the show in many ways, and do it all internally, which is really interesting because it wasn't like he was not allowed to say things, because he didn't even understand. The character doesn't understand what's happening to him. So it's playing all these different levels of awareness, of consciousness of what's happening, of fear, and he does it so beautifully and seamlessly. It really is. It really is something to see, and I hope people will check it out. I mean, even if you're going to pick 2 episodes for Freddie, look at episode 5 and episode 10. He's amazing in both of those.
Did you actually get an Emmy nomination for The Wonder Years? I was looking up your IMDb.
I was a producer. It was an individual writing one, yeah.
I can't think of 2 more different shows than The Wonder Years and Bates Motel.
See, then they aren't to me, because it's funny, because and the same thing with Parenthood and Friday Night Lights is that they're all just about people and families trying to have happy lives, and they have conflicts thrown in front of them, and the world closes in on them in different ways. But it's coming from the same place. I mean, Bates Motel is a dark show, but at its heart, it was a mother and a son that wanted to have a happy home and run a motel. That's what they wanted, and that's a pretty relatable desire.
Where might fans see you next? What's next on your plate?
I'm developing 2 things for Universal. One is a romantic comedy that I'm doing with Daniel Gelbar and Freddie Highmore also. It's really fun. It's a long-distance relationship. Very different tone from Bates. Very fun. All about love and sex and relationships. And I'm developing a magic realism historical epic set in Ireland, also for Universal, which I'm very excited about.
Very cool.
Super excited about.
It was great talking to you today. I'm such a fan of the show, and I'll just echo what our sister site TV Line said, Michael Asiello, that it's very rare to see a show just get better as it ages, and Bates Motel was one of those shows.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Cool. We'll see you next time.
Okay.